Welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
Dude, no problem. Man, your music is so amazing. I've been playing it every single morning when I make my pour over coffee. I'm dead serious. Ever since I saw your infamous Onyx commercial, that's all I can play.
I
So,
I I assumed that that was probably how you came across the music, just based on this being a coffee thing. I was gonna ask if it was via the Onyx ad.
no, so I've seen your stuff before
Oh
and
really?
it kind yeah, so I like I said before offline, I'm a huge grunge fanatic, so I look up anything that kind of, brings grunge to the forefront or, any type of like underground music I listen to. And man, like when I saw you on the commercial, I was like, oh yeah, I dove right back into listening because the first
Awesome.
song I ever heard by you was a cover from Green Day, which was the Brain Stew. And that's,
Yeah,
yeah, so that's kind of how I came into touch with your band.
right on. Is that what you said? That was how you discovered us? Was
Yeah,
the
that's how I discovered you because I
awesome?
was actually so honestly, the story I was looking up covers of bands because I usually get into like, new artists that cover anything. And that's how I came across you guys was Brain Stew.
Man, that song has really served us well. That is the story of a lot of people discovering our band is through that cover, which is Um, I don't know. That's pretty cool. It's not something I ever took too serious or set out to do. I just really like
Right.
that song, and I don't know. I'm so happy every time somebody says that that's how they discovered us.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. So this is a coffee podcast. But ever since I saw you on the commercial, you have to be an avid like coffee fanatic. So we're gonna try to blend music and coffee. So that's gonna be the
All
whole
right,
goal of this podcast.
that's my entire life is music and coffee.
Awesome, man. So let's do this. How did Ty get into coffee, and when did you find out that you loved specialty coffee, and what bean was that?
What bean was that?
Yeah, or you don't even have to go that far in.
I'll start right off with
What
that.
coffee was it?
I love some Guatemalan man.
Okay.
Uh, I feel like I've never had a Guatemalan bean that I don't like.
Okay.
Um, Ethiopian you can't go wrong with either. I feel like, but um, anyway, uh, let's see. What were those questions again? How did I get into how did I
Yeah,
get into
like
coffee, and then how did
what
I get into specialty
so
coffee?
when did you get hooked pretty much? When you had that cup, what was it, and how did you get hooked pretty much?
Oof. How did I get hooked? I got hooked because I got hooked on caffeine and figured
Right.
I might as well
Okay, gotcha.
if I'm gonna be addicted, I might as well drink something I like. So let's find some stuff that actually tastes good.
For sure,
Uh,
yeah.
I got into coffee. So I've been doing the coffee thing for like 12 years now.
Okay.
Um, I started at this little mom and pop coffee shop that was like not good. But a friend like a friend hooked me up with a job um, when I was like probably 20 or 21 or something, 20 I think, and back in 2011, and I let's see. Yeah, it was not the greatest place, but it was my introduction into kind of like learning the ropes as far as learning how to work a pretty basic espresso machine, like a manual machine,
Right.
and learning some pour over stuff and some siphon brews, and like actually now that I'm thinking about it, I haven't thought of this in years, but a lot of the equipment I was using at that place was actually uh, some pretty cool stuff, but it was like nobody there really knew what they were doing, not even the owners or the managers. It was just kind of like we have all this cool gear.
Okay.
Um, and so I knew some baseline stuff, and got some experience with all of that. And then I left that place after a couple of years and went to another coffee company who had pretty extensive training. Um, I mean, and at this point, I was sort of into. I don't know that I would say I was into specialty stuff. I was just like I knew how to make some drinks, but I was, like, maybe a little bit better than, like, a Starbucks employee because I had to
Right.
manually do all this stuff. But, yeah, then I went to this local, franchise company that they had a couple different stores in the area, and so they had a pretty, like, specific training program, and, I learned a lot through them as far as, like, technique, and I would say still while I was at that company, that 2nd company for a few years, I was kind of like, "Yeah, I." Oh, when I started the first coffee shop, I didn't drink coffee. I didn't care for it. I didn't like it. I was like,
Okay.
"This is just a job for me." Um, there, I kinda got into drinking it a little bit here and there, but really not even. The 2nd company I worked for was better quality stuff-ish, um, and mainly my takeaway from that was just getting better training. Um, eventually, I went to, like, really specialty place, and their training was pretty strict, like, much more intensive, and very, like there's a lot more knowledge based, which
Right.
helped me grow in the I had worked at a couple places that were like, "Just do it this way because
Right.
that's how you do it."
Now,
Uh,
were you doing music at this time too while you were going through this whole thing?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
so, in general, I've worked in the service industry stuff since I was 16 years old, so
Okay.
I'm 32 now, so literally 16 years, and, I've kinda stayed in that because not only do I enjoy the environment and the money is pretty good, but, like, it allows me the flexibility to at the first couple shops I was at actually, at most shops I've been at, for a while, I was in a band that toured, like, full time, and so it was pretty easy to have a job with flexibility that would let me, um, like, 3 or 4 times a year, leave for, like, a month or 2 months at a time, and then come back and still have a job for whatever, another month, and then I go back out on the road. Like,
Right.
that's always been really convenient. Let's see. Yes, I feel like I spent a handful of years working in coffee stuff before I actually really gave a shit about it at all.
Okay.
Uh, and it definitely the environment and the people that I was working around is kind of what helped shape. Like, it's not until I got into an environment where I was like, "Cool, I've worked in these places that were just okay before," but, like, the first place, nobody cared and nobody even knew what they were doing. The second place was like, whatever, and then eventually I moved into some shops that were like, "No, we're actually really passionate about this, and, here is how you do things, but here's also why we do it that way," and, there was also, like, in the last let's see, I've been doing this for 12 years, and somewhere in the middle, probably literally like the 6 year mark, I started learning from all these people that are like, actually, there's new ways of doing things now. Like the way that you've been learning is like, yes, we all used to do it that way, but now there's these newer methods of like, there's updated science and updated
Right.
mechanics of all this stuff that just show us we can get a better product by doing it this way now. So then I had to like relearn a little bit and reshape kind of, which was kind of good to just like especially when I was leveling up at some of these places in specialty coffee that were like, everything you know, forget about it. Let me teach you from scratch. And I don't know.
For sure. Yeah, dude, and I feel like you're always learning with coffee. It's
Mhm.
always something new. There's always, and I've said this on numerous past podcasts, you're always dialing coffee in, a different way. You're always finding new recipes. And like with you, like music is such a center hub for you that coffee just enhances that experience, and finding different ways to enjoy that cup of coffee, man, just plays into your whole day.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a really um, one of my favorite things about coffee culture and like coffee consumer culture is the ritual of it. It's very much like from someone who has been like who I'm the guy behind the counter serving other people. I'm not offended when people come in at like 7 a.m. On their way to work and they're short with you and they're kind of grumpy. That's not
Right.
they're not trying to be an asshole. They're just pre-caffeinated and they're
For
you know
sure.
like they're just trying to struggle to get their first couple words of the day out, like, much
Right.
less you know what I mean? So, but if you can have, like, a first of all, if you can have that understanding that they're not trying to be an asshole to you, so don't take it personally if they are a little grumpy, and you just continue to smile and serve them, and, especially if you can make something if you can do something on a quality level, like, it's not just like, if I can f have you ever been to a coffee shop? When I go to a coffee shop, I scope out what the vibe is immediately, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
if I need caffeine, there's a place down the street from my house that is not good. And but it's like walking distance. So I go there all the time because it's convenient, but like I'll just get a cold brew because I know that it's gonna give me the caffeine I need. That's all I really want. I wish I could get something that tasted better, but I don't trust what they do. I've had some of their drinks before and they're not
Right.
good. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'll get a shot of espresso and it's not even a good tasting shot of espresso, but it's still gonna do the job. So
For
like as
sure.
far as like giving me the caffeine. So that like uh with that in mind, if you can knowingly make something a quality cup of coffee, a quality drink of any kind, and it's going to taste good, it's going to be good, and and the people that are coming in actually enjoy coffee more than just wanting caffeine and something sweet to smooth it out. Um, you can like I love when that like makes my day. Like,
Right.
as the consumer, when I go to get a cup of coffee that's so and I'm not just trying to plug Onyx right now, but, I will because we worked with them, and the first time I had a pour over of their tropical weather blend, I believe that's what
Right.
it's called. Oh my god, that was I was like I don't really drink black coffee that much. I don't It's not really my thing, but that was like I was like, "Dude, I would." Oh my gosh, that blew my mind. It's I can't even talk it up enough. But like that kind of thing. When you can
Right.
especially okay, like even the stigma of just like like people get coffee because it's the quickest, easiest thing. And like, they'll get like a drip coffee and because it's quick to grab, and then they doctor it up with some cream and sugar or whatever. Because it's coffee is like by nature a little bit bitter, it's whatever. But like with that in mind, if you have a cup of black coffee being like, "Hey, I know what black coffee tastes like," but then it actually tastes so rich and all this the flavors are coming out. Dude, that's such a magical,
It is,
I don't
yeah.
know, and that's like the first thing in your morning, and you can make that your ritual. It's such a, like, I don't know, it's a wonderful thing, and for me, and I'm sure probably many other people, uh, the inevitable chaos of every single day is like as soon as you step out your front door to start your day, there's always something that's so I like being able to take a minute to myself at the beginning of my day and like especially on my days off, just like sit in like wherever the sunlight is coming in from my window and enjoy the sunlight hitting me. Just like be quiet for a few minutes. I'm not on my phone and I just have a cup of coffee and let that feeling wash over me. I know this sounds really cheesy or whatever, but like
No, no, you're
that
good,
part
man.
of that ritual is like that's me collecting my peace for the day and allowing myself to like give myself a little this sounds so corny, but like it gives me a smile first thing in the morning.
For sure.
A nice rich cup of coffee, and it's also caffeinating you, so you're like that's how you're starting your day, and then it gives me the energy to kind of go about whatever the rest of the day holds for me. But at least I have caffeine now.
Right, well, and I know I 100% agree with what you're saying and understand what you're saying, especially as a coffee, hobbyist or someone that enjoys the entire process. It is a form of meditation,
It is.
getting up and getting everything ready and getting it together and actually enjoying that cup. So, how ingrained is coffee into your guys' recording sessions?
um, I feel like it's for me. It's like a it's a giant thing. And I know it's for me and one of our other guys. The other 2, I'm not sure that I think there's one guy in our band who doesn't do caffeine.
Right. Like,
And
I
then
feel like do you think it would get you amped up too much, especially if you were trying to stay, like,
I
on beat with a song?
yeah, I would say at this point, in my life in general, like, one of the biggest virtues I've learned in, being a coffee enthusiast is um, pace is key. Like have like if I'm gonna have a shot of espresso, like let's say if first thing in the morning, have a double shot, and if you need more, you can get more.
Right.
But if it's a and I mean, let's say it's a rough morning, you need a little extra, have a triple shot.
Right.
You probably don't need a quad right now or ever. I'm gonna venture out to say, and maybe this is just my body type,
Right.
but I'm gonna say you probably don't need a quad shot. And if you need more caffeine, if 2 or 3 shots isn't enough after like an hour, go get some more. Like, and pace yourself. You can have 6 or 7 shots in a day. I think that's crazy, but like just spread it out. There's no part of you that ever needs to start your day with between 4 and 6 shots at once.
Right.
All you're gonna do is buzz for a minute, and you're gonna be like, "I feel so good," and then you're gonna have an anxiety attack, and then you're gonna have diarrhea. There's no part like,
No,
you know
right.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's so
No, I agree. I think that's too much caffeine right
yeah.
off the bat,
So
you know?
so with like if as far as the recording process, I definitely will start with either like a cup of coffee, like a French press or pour over, or just a um, double espresso or some kind of latte with just a double espresso in it.
Right.
A pretty standard fair amount of caffeine to start off with, and it is fun to kind of keep the buzz going sometime, especially if you're like really hyped on something. But um, I guess to fully answer that question, I would say caffeine is not a it's not something that super fuels the recording process
Right.
other than to uh like the initial amount to kind of get my day going, kind of like we were talking about, just it wakes me up first thing in the morning, and it's helps it's a helpful tool for getting my brain set right, and getting into my rhythm. But I have ADHD,
Mhm.
and I like extra caffeine is just gonna make me buzz so much that I am continuing to forget about what I was even working on, which is already something I struggle with or without
Right.
caffeine. So
Mhm. Right.
yeah.
So, man, how first off, how did you get linked in with Onyx for this music video? Or actually shooting?
Um, they were already a company that I was pretty aware of, and I really liked their stuff. And um I had seen this artist, Abby Holiday, do something similar. She
Mhm.
didn't do a full, um, like, video or anything for it, but she did, like, kind of like an ad where it was just, um, 45-second thing or whatever of what looked like her trying to write a song and then going to get a cup of coffee, and then,
Right.
um yeah, I thought that was really cool, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I really like Onyx Coffee, and I really like Abby Holiday," and I had no idea that they did this cool collaboration. And I basically we started working with this videographer who we had pitched him a couple ideas about some stuff we wanted to do, and we had this live video thing in mind, and he was like, "Well, part of the cost of this, it would be easier if there was a sponsor, um, because what we're talking here kind of gets a little up there. So like if we could alleviate some costs by having a sponsor, that'd be cool." And we're like, okay, cool. What's a sponsor we could like? What's something we can all get behind? And he and I would just always go out to coffee, and he and I had both worked in specialty coffee before, and um, like so that was a passion between he and I. And he somehow mentioned, I think he just randomly mentioned Onyx and then brought up that Abby Holiday video, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've seen that same thing. That's so like, yeah, let's what if we did something like that?"
Right.
And then he just reached out to Onyx. He just kind of was shooting his shot, reached out to him, and his proposal and the way that he communicates is so like I wish that guy managed my band. He was so like he just knew how to talk to like, as far as just him being some random guy reaching out to a company being like, "Hey, you're a coffee company. Do you want to pay for this band's video that you've never met before?" And,
Right, right,
like, the concept of that, he's such a good, like, I don't know. He he was just able to talk them into it, and, he pitched them on a couple really cool ideas and that they were instantly all about, and, like, first of all, just being like, yeah, the band is like very into your company already.
right.
And then I think he pitched them on a couple like taglines of like, what did we go with? It was like Onyx fuels creativity or something like that. Is
Right.
and they were like, yeah, we love that. That's awesome. So instantly they were pretty on board, which was cool. Especially I think they were like they checked out our music and they were like, "Yeah, this band is awesome. We can get behind that." Which that I don't know, that was encouraging because I was just like, "Oh, we're just some random band asking for like a favor from this company that we like, but I don't know if they are gonna care." We're like, they don't have to give a shit about us, but I hope you do.
Right.
And then they were instantly like, "No, yeah, you're cool." And I was like, "Yes."
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Hey, do you mind if we show everyone the video?
yeah, let's do it.
All right, awesome. Dude, it is such a good video. So here's the thing, man. Like that entire setting is I feel like if I was to wake up in the morning and go make me a cup of coffee, like it's super relaxed and dude, I feel like it just sets the entire like that whole setting, it just fits that song perfectly. I mean, I don't know if you feel the same, but I don't know, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, I do, and I remember seeing the finished product when he sent it to us, after all the editing and kind of the way he pieced it together, especially the ad. Um, I was just like, man, this. I actually hit up that same videographer today and was like, I have another project I want to work with you on. That was he and I had kind of known each other before and like we're friends, but we had never worked on a project together before. And when I saw that finished product, I was just like, one, I'm so proud of my band. I can't believe that's what we sounded like.
Right.
That was a live recording, by the way.
It
Like,
it was awesome.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
I was just like, "Wow, I can't believe that's like what I hope we sound like in my
Yeah.
head."
And then when you put your
Yeah.
hand over on the guitar neck, when you put your hand over it, I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Yeah, that's my one little party trick.
Yeah.
But, no, the just the beautiful video that he did, and the way he brought it all to life, and especially the shots of me making coffee, that was all his idea.
It draws you in. Like,
Yeah,
from an outside perspective, like, I don't play music, but it drew me into the music video. Like, it literally pulled me in, especially, like, with the
that's
whole
awesome.
process of making the coffee, and then you guys just crushed it with the ending.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, that was, um, I don't think it was me that chose the songs for that. I can't remember if it was, the director who did that or if it was some of the other guys in the band, but it was like a collaborative effort of them being like, What songs can we choose that help foster this entire, uh,
Right,
feeling that basically you're talking about, that they wanted to communicate this feeling when you watch the video and when we're talking about the way, uh, a good cup of coffee can kind of like reinvigorate you and inspire. Like, it was a group effort with picking like, how about these two songs, and because they're so dynamic and we can like play around with like
right.
the the
I think No Tell would have been good, but in a different setting.
yeah, that one seems a little bit more like, let's take some shots to that one. I
Right,
I
right.
guess it could be shots of espresso, but I was
Could
thinking
be,
it seems
yeah.
more like a, tequila shots to that one, but um, yeah, we got to have some fun with that and play, like, on our song "Okay," which is, I think, the opening one in that video. um, I played it on piano, it's usually just played on guitar, and so it was cool to kind of Onyx sent us a care package of a bunch of different coffees, so we literally had, like, it had to have been, like, at least, like, 6 different coffees or something that they sent us, and so it was our director, Noah. It was Noah and I, like, constantly hanging out and planning, um, planning how we're gonna shoot this and like brainstorming while um, just sipping coffee in his kitchen. Um, and kind of like I said, like just literally we would be brewing this coffee and I would every sip I would take, I'd be like, I can't believe this tastes this good. And so it would get
Right.
me excited to be like, I'm excited that Onyx is on board to do this. I can wholeheartedly get behind this company and endorse them. Just
Right.
every sip of this coffee is so good.
Was that entire thing planned out, or was that just like shoot as you go? Let's just make some good shots as we're filming because it seemed so natural. The whole scene is just so natural with you being on the piano, setting the coffee cup down. Like, was that
Um,
all like planned out, or
yeah, it was pretty planned out. It was let's see. So this us playing the song okay was um that was all one shot. So like
okay,
I think we did a couple takes of each song, but like our we did like our second song is called Garden Home, and that one is likely a couple of takes stitched together. I can't exactly tell, but like um and we play to like a click track, so we're all playing the same thing at like it's on time and stuff like that. So it's pretty easy to stitch that one together because there's definitely some shots of like just the drummer for a second and then it cuts back to me or whatever. And so and you stitch those together. But which is pretty like typical music video style. But with the song Okay, that was one shot. Like it's just the camera just like is on me and then it followed me as I kind of moved around the room a couple times and back.
okay,
And that was just one take, one shot. And we did have to be pretty like um I think we did like a rehearsal shot of it or something. Like we planned everything out and we were like, here's how it's gonna go. We're gonna open, the camera's on you right here. You're standing right here. As the song progresses, you're gonna go over here. And there was like it was like a whole choreographed thing.
right,
Um and and then the shots of me with the coffee was I think that was actually a couple days later. I came back, we made sure that it was similar time of day and that the lighting was proper and, like, matched, and I had to, like, make sure that I, like, either didn't shave or, like, that my facial hair was the same exact length or whatever.
right,
It was a
right,
whole thing, and then, like, I had to wear the same clothes and then we shot the scene of me, um, like, just sitting at the piano by myself, um, trying like, whatever, it's kind of the concept of, like, "Oh, I'm trying to make a song, but I'm a little bit uninspired," and then I go into the kitchen, make a cup of coffee,
right.
and then come back, and and then we play our song, "Okay." Um, and that was kinda how that was shot. So it was pretty planned out.
That's awesome, man. Like it's,
It
dude,
was it was all on that director.
really,
He was brilliant, and that guy, I think he's first of all, a part of his deal that he struck up with Onyx, he definitely, like, kinda used us to leverage his own video work, and so I think he by him doing that, he was able to kind of he landed himself, like a he's just shooting a bunch of content for that company now.
that's
Like
awesome.
yeah, yeah, so
Yeah, so let's hop into your music, man. So you can correct me. I am a huge grunge fanatic, and I get a lot of those notes and tones from your guys' music, and
hell yeah.
I get a vibe from that. So like, and man, I grew up on Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, the Pixies, all that, and I get all of that from your music. It's like you hit everything in your guys' music, and I just want to know what your guys' official genre is.
So do I. I I don't know what our official genre is. I
Okay.
I tell people rock and roll because it's the easiest thing to say,
Right, right.
as big as that is. I mean, I think it's indie rock. I I definitely have a lot of, like, grunge influence, but we're also pretty like ambient and stuff too. So I've never known how to put like a name to what this is. I've heard people call it like dream grunge, but I don't even think that I don't know. I don't. That's I get what that title is, because it's somewhere in between like grungy and then a little bit like ethereal, ambient stuff like that. But
Right.
um, I don't know. I just kind of go between telling people like ambient, indie rock, and then saying rock and roll. We get kind of I think we hinge on a little bit of like this emo sound, so we get kind of called like emo a lot, which
Okay.
I used to think was a little not what I was going for, but I actually don't care now as long as if because we'll get people that come to our shows and they're like, I love emo music and I love you. And I'm like, that's cool. As long as you like what we're doing, and I don't care what you call us.
Right. Yeah, and dude, your song that your cover of Brain Stew, one interesting take that I love from that song is it's almost like it's like a darker sounding chord with the beat to it.
Yeah.
Or do you know what I'm talking? I love
Yeah.
that. And I'm not, lyrically or musically well spoken, so correct me on any
No,
of this
yeah,
stuff.
that's what I was aiming for. So um basically the story behind that is I started this band and one of the guys in the band booked us our first show and we had like 3 songs. And I was like, "What are you doing? We literally have like 3 songs. Like we
Right.
can't even fill like a 25-minute time slot if we wanted to." So I was like, "Well, I have this acoustic song called Okay," which this is before we made it into what it was now. But I was like, "I can play that one in the middle of our set. I'll just play it by myself." And I was like, "We need something else to fill up our time, so we have like at least 5 songs."
Right.
And I was like, my favorite band of all time is Green Day, and I was I was like, "What if we did Brain Stew? Because we can learn it in like 10 seconds. But like, let's make it interesting and let's make it like sludgy and ambient." And um, I love this band from Atlanta called Oh Brother.
Okay.
They're basically I was just trying to channel them, which if I had to describe what Oh Brother sounds like, they basically sound like a better version of our cover of that Green Day song. Just like
Right.
ambient, kind of sludgy, I don't know, kind of creepy in some aspects, and then I love it. And that's all I was trying to channel with that, and especially as far as being like, what's a song we could learn in like 10 seconds, and then just like make it our own. So that was how that came about.
Dude, it's awesome, man, and I feel like your guys' following is just growing more and more. Like, what is your guys' influence, recently? And also, what was your initial influence when you started the band? Like, what I know you spoke on that song specifically, but as a band, like, as a sound, what was your initial influences? And then now what are you guys kinda leaning towards moving into the future?
Uh, when I started the band, I was very like definitely Green Day, and Billy Joe Armstrong of Green Day are like is my all-time favorite. I think they're incredible songwriters. And that's just been a part of me like since I was, whatever, 12 years old or something.
Right.
Um, and I don't necessarily aim for the Green Day sound, but it's just so in me. That's like what I grew up on and how I first started learning how to play guitar and stuff like that. Um, s- I think I was trying to be somewhere in between like that Oh Brother, like this kind of dreamy, grungy sound mixed with this band from Indian Lakes who is this really like I don't have a better term than indie rock. I know that's so vague.
Right, right.
But I feel like our song Garden Home, which is also in that Onyx video, um, th- that was me basically when I wrote Garden Home, I was just trying to emulate from Indian Lakes basically. Um, the I mean, Circa Survive, which is also a pretty big influence on all of us collectively, who's especially I have a higher register vocal and like, um,
Right.
I don't know. So once I discovered that band when I was a teenager, I was just like, oh, cool. Now I have someone I can relate to. I don't, at first, I used to think that it was weird that my voice is so high and finding finding artists that actually sounded like that, I was like, "Okay, cool. I don't have to." I didn't know that you couldn't as a male. I was just like, "Oh, you're supposed to sound like uh what's his name from uh not Stone Temple Pilots, like Creed and stuff like that." That was like my
Oh, Scott Stapp.
yeah, like and Pearl Jam. Like that was my point of
Right.
reference. And then like in general, just like I was like, "Oh, men have deeper voices," and I was like, "It's weird that mine's high." And then I would find all these weird bands that just had like I don't know voices that I connected with, and I was like, "Cool, I'll lean into that." Plus, I learned how to play a lot of cool guitar stuff from that band, so I got really into.
You guys kinda sometimes with a new this is I wouldn't say newer band, but you kinda give me Cage the Elephant vibes every now and again,
Dude,
with your
yeah,
vocals.
yeah. I think that's the Cage the Elephant sound all around. I think is something that um I hear what you're talking about with that, with his vocals, but in general, the kind of in the last couple of years, I think I've chilled out with some of my writing and trying to be like, what's the coolest thing I could do here? And
Right,
I'm kind of just more like, because I mean, I do love playing guitar. It's like my first love, and I mean, I can shred on guitar. I can play guitar really well, and I have a
right,
bunch of pedals, and I can make all these wacky sounds, and I love doing that. It's fun, but I'm also the front person of a band, so I'm like, I don't want to be. We have some older songs that I'm like, why did I write these guitar parts where I'm like shredding while singing, and I have to like
right,
I had to do all this stuff live, and I can do it, but like why? It's some of it's taking away from me being the best performer I could be. I wish I could just
right,
you know, so the older I get, the more I'm like, dude, I actually just I don't even listen to some of these like wacky bands that I was listening to in my early 20s when I was just trying to be cool. I just listened to the stuff
right,
I was listening to when I was 13 and just made me feel good. So now I'm just like, I just want to write American Idiot by Green Day. Like I don't like or I just want to write something like Cage the Elephant where it's it doesn't have to be complex to be cool as long as it's just if it feels good, you know what I mean?
No, it's super free flowing, and
Yeah.
also your vocals, like, come in my opinion, add a level of ambience to the music, and I feel like some of the guitar parts come in hot and heavy, and then you just lay it down with your voice, and it's almost like a balance between guitar and vocals, like, the way you do it, so, I mean, that's what I take from it, but, like, it's a good mixture for me.
Nice. Yeah, I do tend to get I love experimenting with just doing a bunch of like vocal layers and doing little like stuff where I'm just singing ooh and ah underneath the main melody just to kind of give it this kind of angelic texture or something underneath it. And
Right, how often do you have, other vocals on your songs? Like, how is it just you most of the time, or do you like to have, the other singer?
it's pretty much just me.
Okay,
Yeah, the in that video that we did, that was my friend Ghost Girl, and
okay.
she is like this like hip hop R&B kind of thing. Uh,
That's why I was asking, I didn't know if you planned on doing more of that in the future.
y-
That's why I
ab-
was curious.
absolutely, yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. And then on on the recording of that same song, I got to work with I co-wrote some of that song with Sherry Bemis, who she was in this band called Isley, um, uh, and she's married to the singer of Say Anything. Um, that was kind of just like I don't even remember how we made that connection, but that was like probably my first time collaborating. And then when we decided to do this video, I was like, oh, cool. I could let's have somebody like I want to have the full thing that we did in the studio version because we don't usually have anybody else sing it with us live. So I was like, man, I'm gonna get Ghost Girl to come sing this, and she is obviously an incredible singer. So I she was like, what do you want me to do in this song? I was like, I want you to just absolutely show off. Just do what you do. And she did that in that video.
yeah, that's awesome, man. So, let's dive into touring. How much touring do you have coming up? And also, you guys have some concerts coming up, right? I think, I
Yeah.
saw a schedule.
Yeah, so later this month, at the end of July, we're playing Post Fest in Indianapolis, which is just a bunch of post rock bands from all over um, coming to Indiana to play. I don't know, this cool festival. So we're excited to be a part of that. I've been wanting to. There's a handful of bands on that festival that are some like heroes of ours that we've been trying to get our foot in the door with for some time. So it's an honor to have been asked to play that. Um, let's see what else. I know there's some stuff in I think we're playing a couple Ohio dates in like Columbus and like Cleveland area in later August and
Okay.
or early August, I think. We don't have too much touring coming up at the moment. Nothing on the schedule. I know we're trying to work on some stuff for late this year.
Okay.
Um, but this like 2023 has kind of been a year of us kind of reassessing how we do a lot of stuff with our band.
I see.
We've there's a lot that goes into touring and making it worth our while. Um, as much as we love it, but there's like we did a bunch of touring last year and it was fun, but ultimately like exhausting in a way that was just like, oh man, I never thought that I would be at this point, but like I have to ask myself, am I even enjoying this anymore?
Right.
I spent all my 20s doing that and just living out of a van, and it's my life, and it feels like home to me when I do tour. But uh, in the last couple of years, I think we've kind of been like, okay, how do we? We're always just trying to look at how we can level up. So we're like, okay, what if we just put a pause on trying to stay busy and just take a season to rethink and kind of reorganize how we do things. And um, I don't know. It's not like we're trying to slow down necessarily.
Right.
We're gonna keep releasing music and keep playing shows. But we also had a bunch of like weird vehicle stuff where stuff was breaking down, and then we didn't have a vehicle for about a year, so we were like renting every time we had to go out, and it was a little bit of a hassle. So we kind of have I don't know. I'm going on a little tangent.
No, no, you're good.
We don't have any current actual tours coming up. We've got a handful of dates kind of spread out over the next couple of months, but then I think after like early September, we don't have too many things booked at the moment for the rest of the year.
Right. I have a quick question. So, what is your overall goal with Antlerhead? Like, if you could have your dream goal granted, what would it be for the band?
Um, without sounding dumb, I want to be Green Day. I want to be Cage the Elephant. I want to
Right.
be up there. That's what we want to do. And um yeah, that's I want to aim for that. And so I mean, I think part of that has with that ambition in mind, that's sort of what has continued to shape the progression of the songwriting based on like let's see, writing whatever the first couple songs we released early on, where I was just like, what if I was just as self-indulgent as possible on guitar and then all I do is like scream or whatever,
Right.
versus releasing like some of our more recent stuff, which is a little bit more tailored in the songwriting. And I'm like, we can still have fun when we play guitar. I still want us to have fun playing these songs. I don't want it to be boring, but like, let's really work on the songwriting. Um, we all are very like we want to do this. And I think that's a cool question that you ask. Honestly, that's something I like to ask a lot of my friends because we have a bunch of friends in a bunch of different bands, and that that is always a good question because everybody's goals are a little bit different. But
Right.
sometimes, I mean, sometimes you meet bands who they're like their goal is they're like, yeah, we want to be famous. We want to be the next big band. We want to be our heroes. But and you're like, sick. What are you doing about it? And they're like, we just play at our local dive bar and hope people come. And I'm like,
Right. Right.
it's a little bit delusional. They don't do anything to help themselves. They just kind of like
Right.
They just like make like a Facebook post on an app that people don't even use anymore that says, "Ta-da, we are a band. You should care." And people don't. And then they get upset that they aren't getting anywhere. But then I also have friends who are in awesome bands that don't do very much, and I'm like, "What is your goal?" And they're like, "I just want to have fun with my friends every now and then." And I'm like, "Damn, that's awesome. That's really cool because you are doing great at that. Every time I see you guys, it looks like you are just a bunch of best friends on stage, and it looks like you're having the time of your life. And it's cool that you're stress free because you're not really trying to do much with what you're doing other than just have fun with it. Which ultimately, we're all just trying to have fun with it. But
Right.
there is a lot of work that goes into it. But it's all about the goals. And as far as like knowing what you're going for with being in a band. Otherwise, it's just a lot of work for I don't know. I think being in a band is a lot of work, and for me, I'm like, why am I doing all this work? I do have to ask myself that all the
Right.
time. And it is because we all very much see ourselves uh doing this in like, I don't know. I just went and saw Paramore on an arena tour and I was like, yeah, that's awesome. I'm so happy that Paramore is at a level where they're touring arenas and I want to do that.
Right.
Who doesn't? But
Yeah, for sure.
we also like I don't know. I think we also believe in ourselves. So
Right, for sure. Hey, so I think you guys are gonna get there. Like seriously, like you guys have a great sound.
thank you.
I don't think I've found a song that I haven't liked by you guys. So it's good. I enjoy your music. But I also so I want to make this applicable to you guys. I asked this question to coffee roasters, baristas, farmers, etc. I want to know what the hardest parts 'cause I go off of learning curves in all my podcasts. I go off what's the hardest part about getting started and what was the biggest difficulties that you dealt with. So when you were getting into music, and you can go with Antlerhead or you can go with how you got into music, period. What were some of the hardest lessons that you learned starting out?
Hmm. Probably with I've done music for a long time, but starting Antlerhead was probably the biggest learning curve. And I would say that there's not really a right way to do anything. Uh,
Right,
I spent so much time trying to ask for advice and seek out and learn. And I mean, there are right ways and wrong ways of doing things, but like ultimately, most things are you got to find what works for you. Um, I put so much effort and stress into trying to figure out what I'm doing, and it turns out everybody is also just doing the same thing, and it looks different for everybody. Uh, so that was a hard lesson that took me so long and a lot of trial and error, a lot of asking for advice and then trying out that advice and realizing that it didn't do anything for me, but it did work for somebody else. But
right,
it doesn't and it could work for someone else as well, but um yeah, it's you got to figure out what works for you. There's no one path to any of it.
right, for sure. I think that goes with everything like you were saying. Like that goes in like from coffee to music. That goes in that's a good
Oh
lesson
my
for
gosh, let
everything.
me tell you something, man. I with coffee, it's so funny. I personally, I can't do a tulip when I'm doing latte art. Um,
Really?
yeah, I can't. I'm just not good at it. I can't. It's not that I'm gonna stop trying, but like ultimately, I'm not great at tulips. I certainly can't do a swan, but I've got friends that can do all that stuff. But I can only do rosettas, and um I've been in environments with other baristas that are a little bit snooty about that.
Right.
They're like, "Oh, you can only do a Rosetta? Oh, okay."
Oh, okay, that makes
And I'm
sense. I
like,
got you.
but here's my thing, and I'm definitely gonna like, I don't care if this sounds arrogant. I make the cleanest, like sickest Rosetta, and none of that. Like the only thing that matters is that every time I set a drink down at a table, like instantly the entire table, like it's my point of pride where I set the drink down, I casually walk away, I turn my back, and I start walking away, and I hear all of them go, "Oh my god!" And then they get their phones out and they all
Right.
Instagram it because it looks. pretty, and that's all that matters. Like,
Right, for sure,
they're gonna
yeah.
all they wanna do is drink it and taste it, and you gave them something cool to look at in the meantime, so it looks appetizing and it looks beautiful. But, like, among among baristas, they're like, "Oh, you only did that design," and I'm like, and it's the same with musicians, man. Musicians will be like, "Oh, you use this recording software, or you only do this, this, and this." And
Okay,
I'm like, I'm s I'm still it'll be people that only criticize, but they don't actually do something as good as what you do.
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
No, that makes sense.
I mean, with baristas, I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. You guys are better uh, tulips than me." I'm not saying but it's funny when people criticize that stuff, and I'm like, "Come on, man. This is if it's pretty."
At least you're doing something, you
Yeah,
know? Yeah.
if it's pretty either way and it still tastes good and the customer likes it, then, like, who cares?
Yeah, right? I know, I totally agree. So let's hop back into your music real quick. So once you guys got everything going and you found your sound, when was that? And how did you navigate the waters when you found a sound that you guys were wanting to go with, and what did that feel like?
Hmm. I think it's I think it's a I think it's a never-ending journey. But let's see, I probably found the sound maybe during, like, COVID lockdown era.
Okay,
Or well, no, let's say maybe early 2021. Uh, Early 2021, COVID stuff is sort of starting to lift. Um, I actually so the band, like Antlerhead as a collective right now, is it's me and 3 other guys, and I've actually only been with them since about early 21. So, like, probably
okay,
I've had a handful of different people playing with me over the years, and I landed with this crew in early 2021, and they have just been like, oh, they're golden. I love those guys.
right,
Um, and but around that same time, I was I just explore a bunch of different songwriting all the time. Like, I love listening to folk stuff. I love a lot of pop. Um, and to me, I was just like, oh yeah, rock, indie rock stuff. It's it comes natural to me. It's in me. But like, I've done that a million times. I want to explore all these other things, and so I would write all this different stuff. But then I would be like, oh man, I actually really some stuff I would write just to be like, well, I don't care. This is just a random song I'm never going to use. So,
right,
and some of it I would like write like a country song or something, and then be like, damn, actually that's a really good song. I want to use it, but like it doesn't sound like Antlerhead, and I don't really know what to do with that.
right.
And
What would it give, like, Black Key vibes off?
dude, it would I don't know, it would sound like, Casey Musgraves or something,
Oh, okay,
and
okay,
I
that country. I thought you were talking
it
about, like, a little bit of,
no, it
okay,
would be, like, way different stuff, and I'd be like, "I don't even know how to, like how to this doesn't fit with anything else we do," and then part of a hard, not a hard lesson, but something that took me a long time to understand was, who cares? Like,
right,
who cares if it sounds different? I am still the same singer, as whatever, the Brain Stew cover versus this newer stuff. So and I'm still gonna be playing guitar, and I'm still gonna probably my guitar is probably gonna sound similar. Like, uh, so like anything that I do, just keep calling it Antlerhead. No one's really gonna care that much
right,
that you put out some different songs. That's natural in general as people, and so especially with the art you make. Um, but at first I was kind of intimidated by like I was like I'm scared to show this song to my band because I think they're gonna tell me it's like it's just weird and too unorthodox and like it's not the vibe. And after a while, I kind of just started like leaning into it, and I'd be like, well, I can't just like be too scared to show my band like every other song I write, especially if I'm loving these songs.
right,
And I showed them No Tail, and well, I think I wrote No Tail as like a joke, and I put it on TikTok, and it kind of was popping off a little bit on TikTok, and I was like, that song, that dumb one I wrote, like, okay. And
right,
and we started playing it on one of our tours, just kind of on a whim. and and it really was a song that was brought to life by, like, fans and people that were just like, "You should
Okay.
play that more." And it definitely leans on being kind of cheeky and, like, whatever, but that's, like, a lot of my songwriting lately, and I was sort of I don't know, some of the older stuff was so, like I'm like, "Oh, it has to be deep, and it has to be, like, badass, and
Right.
it has to be cool," and, so thought out. And some of my best stuff that I love working on is just when I'm just like, I don't know, writing casually and not trying too hard. And a lot of the stuff I've been leaning into a lot more stuff that sounds kind of like No Tail and the direction as far as writing, and
Okay.
even the music in that one is pretty like I just kind of kept being like, what would Green Day and Manchester Orchestra do here? It's nothing that complex, you know.
Right.
Um, and it goes hard and we all have fun playing it,
Right.
and especially the fact that it's simple, it means we can kind of like jump around and throw our guitars around live now. We don't have to
Right.
like it's not like, oh, this guitar part's so complex, I gotta focus. You're just like, dude, whatever. Everyone is singing the words back to us and jumping around live, so like we can just join in on that and be a part of the entertaining live show. So like that's sort of where my songwriting is heading now, is just trying to be the best songwriter I can be. And then in the meantime, I'm like, all right, well, if it's a little bit boring to play, let's throw some, I don't know, let's throw some wacky guitar parts in there just so personally
Right.
I'm having fun playing guitar. But like most, yeah,
Dude, I love when some of your riffs kinda give off like a Nirvana vibe. I love when you guys hit some stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah, that stuff sounds I love that kinda guitar sound too, but I like when you guys
me too. I love that band. It's one of my
yeah,
favorites.
it I don't know, but that, like I wouldn't say sludgy, but that sludgy guitar riff is, like, my favorite, and, take that for what you will, but when
In
I'm listening to music, I just love that sludgy guitar sound.
oh yeah, same man. I I don't know, something about it just hits with like
What's that song? I love it. It was in the Batman movie. They redid it. It was one of Nirvana's songs.
it's in the Batman movie.
Yeah, it's like the Batman soundtrack. It's over one of the commercials.
In
Oh my god.
Bloom.
No, 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 it's not in Bloom. Give me a second. 1 second.
Yeah, I gotta know what this is.
Something in the way.
Oh yeah, I remember that cover from Batman. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
dude, I'm trying to think of who did that. I can't think of who that was. Um, but yeah, I like,
That kinda guitar riff, I don't know, it speaks to my soul, and I know it might sound a
dude,
little dark, but it speaks to me.
no, no, I think that is, I think that's it's this weird like visceral thing that when you can do something that is like it doesn't have to be like myself and our other guitar player Billy, we kind of grew up on this like emo music where it was all about like the lead guitar was just like playing all the craziest shit. And so we both like to do that because it's,
Right,
but also like the only thing that we're really doing when we do that is just sometimes it's cool, but sometimes you're just impressing
right,
other guitar players that are at the show, but no one else is really that's like not that
right.
uh
Can I tell you as a listener why I really appreciate that sound?
yeah,
Yeah, so, like, that sound for me is, like, everything is so happy-go-lucky and creative in those sounds, but I feel like that sludgy sound, like the guitar riff and Something in the Way, it's almost like you feel okay being in the darkness. It's
dude,
like you
yes.
enjoy, like, hey, like, life isn't pretty all the time, and that feeling right there, it makes me okay with what I'm dealing with at the moment.
Dude, that is a fantastic way of putting it, and that's exactly the connection that I kinda aim for and what I have loved learning to lean into, and also, like, with that, a lot of the s we have a handful of songs that people like to reach out to me about and say, "Hey, I just wanna let you know that there's, like, this song, that you wrote means a lot to me, and it's helped me through these times," or whatever. There's really beautiful things that people are connecting with,
Right.
and it's always, like, the simplest songs that we don't ever promote or push as singles, and they're like, it's the ones that we didn't spend too much time on, and that in general don't get that much attention from us. And those are the ones that people are like, yeah, it's just, it's just really simple and it really spoke to
Right.
me in this and this way. And I'm like, oh wow, that's awesome. Like, and same with like guitar riffs, man. I love um a fun, flashy guitar solo is cool in certain contexts. But there's something about some of the simple ones that are just like, if it's a solo or just a riff that's just like pretty simple and definitely with like all this like this really grungy tone to it that just you're like,
Speaks to the
oh
soul,
my,
man.
yeah, yeah. I don't even know how to describe it, but that's like it's something so wonderful about music. And
Right.
honest, okay, at most cafes I've worked at, and at the one that I work at now, I love when there is a um I work at this brunch cafe now and I make all the drinks. And it's this pretty popular place. And it's kind of this like hipster poppin' place that so on weekends everybody's there to get brunch, and it gets pretty chaotic. It's very busy. And when it's first of all, I love the rush. Like when it's so chaotic that you like something about that environment, especially pretty much have to be make sure I'm caffeinated. But like I'm caffeinated so I can keep up with it and make sure my head is in the game. But also, I will put on like I'll put on the entire Insomniac album by Green Day,
Right.
um, or Nevermind by Nirvana, and the the like this grunge music playing in the background of a chaotic environment where it's just myself and all my coworkers scrambling to keep up with it. There's something about that it actually truly puts me at peace. The music does. Like
Right.
when it's a chaotic environment, I'm just maybe it's a part of it's like, yeah, the music, I love this. So of course it's giving me something to find comfort in because I love this song or whatever. But and it's familiar to me or whatever. But it's also like I'm adding chaotic music on top of a chaotic scene that I'm living right now.
Right.
But something about that, and I think especially in addition to being like my brain is like wired on a couple shots of espresso at that point, and
Right.
I'm like everything right now is so chaotic that it actually is like. But we're all working like it's not like my whole like coworkers and I, we all know what we're doing. We're not we are trying to make it through the shift and it is a little bit chaotic, but it's not like we are struggling to know what to do. But the that grunge music while being fueled by caffeine and working through a busy thing like that, it feels like um I don't know, it's comforting in the same way that like
Pure bliss.
when you watch a movie scene that has a like if it's a car chase scene and they're playing rock and roll music in the background to kind of help set the tone of like you know what I mean, like how music
Right. Yeah,
helps
for
shape
sure.
movies in certain scenes. Like it's just like the appropriate music is like, yeah, that makes the moment feel right. Like
It does, and, yesterday when we were messaging back and forth and we were talking about you coming on the show, um, and this wasn't around coffee, it was in the evening, I had a cigar and I had a glass of whiskey, and I was sitting around a campfire when we were messaging, and I had Brain Stew playing, like, that you guys covered, and it dude, I had it on repeat, and I was like, this is good. This is really good." And, yeah, it was very relaxing for me. Alright, Ty, so we are coming close to an end, and if anybody's tuning into this podcast and they wanna hear some awesome music, where can they find you?
you can find us on any streaming platform that's available. Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Deezer, D's Nuts, Amazon, whatever, all of it.
Awesome.
Google, yeah.
Alright, awesome. Hey, and anytime you go down, a new endeavor, or if you guys have a new song come out, or if you wanna promote whatever you wanna do, just reach back out to us and we'll get you back on the podcast.
Dude, I would absolutely love that. Man, thank you so much, Josh, for having me.
Hey, no problem, Ty. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Talk to you soon, man.